I'm John Stewart. I wanted to say thanks to the organizers. This has been great so far. I'm really impressed by everything that's going on here, and I appreciate the setup and everything else. I'm in the Office for Digital Learning at OU. That split off from the Center for Teaching Excellence about a year ago. And so for the past 3 or 4 years, I've been mostly helping faculty with how they teach and thinking about how to integrate websites into their teaching. A lot of that is an effort to try to kill lectures as a platform. And so I'm probably not going to stick to a lecture format for the next 30 minutes, especially not the next 45 minutes. So hopefully we'll descend into conversation at some point. I do have a few things to present, but me talking at y'all kills the creativity and probably intelligence level of the room. But a few things to present first before we get too far into conversation. So the key, I think, to educational technology is not so much in giving tools to people. We did some early iPad rollouts with about this level of effectiveness. And the problem was that we hadn't really thought about how the pedagogy would take advantage of the technology. And I think that's a fairly common issue with all educational technology rollouts, is that we come up with a great new toy, we get really excited about it, we give it to students, we give it to faculty, but we don't actually talk to the faculty or to the students about what we think that they should be doing with those things. It's just, here's a thing, have fun. And so the first little while of rolling WordPress into our classes was sort of the same way. We had high hopes for it, and we knew that it could be used to do great things, but we hadn't quite developed the resources to help faculty know what those great things were yet. And so it took a little while to catch up in terms of building a community to properly use WordPress to teach. And so a lot of what I wanted to talk about today is how we're building that community, what we've been doing to build that community, and I think some of the successes we've had in the last couple of years, particularly with this Creaties project. How many of y'all are work with faculty development, work directly with faculty and sort of training them on what to do? So a good number. What are the successes that you've had? What are the challenges that you faced? Start off with challenges. What's frustrating about working with faculty, with WordPress or just tech in general?
Just slow, especially with the LMS.
Yeah.
Very slow and not trying things.
Yeah, so sort of slow learning, pushback on picking up new tools, especially the LMS, which I think is a universal frustration. Any frustrations back there working with faculty?
Yeah, I agree. Resistant to change.
Yeah, resistant to change. Yeah.
Little time.
Yeah, no one ever has time. That's every study that we find in educational technology says that people don't pick up new tech, not because they're not interested, because they don't feel that they have enough time. Faculty would rather have a course released than more money, generally speaking, although I'm sure more money would help too.
Yeah, and the biggest problem with that, I've worked in multiple institutions, is that faculty are not being granted release time.
Yeah.
And it does not show up for promotion and tenure in their efforts to move up in their career. That, them getting, at least in the institutions I've worked at, where if they are supposed to be publishing or if they're supposed to be researching, they need to focus that time that they have on those efforts in order to get promoted. And when it comes to technology, they don't really, see where it benefits them in moving up in their career.
Yeah. So just for the online audience, he was saying that faculty do not get release time to integrate new technology into their courses. And generally, they're not even getting that much recognition in their tenure and promotion for their teaching. It tends to be more on research and publication. And so even the best teachers just don't have the infrastructure in place to enhance their classrooms with better technology. And so, yeah, we can't rely on the carrot, generally speaking, or a stick to motivate them to integrate technology into their classes, try new things, really enhance what they're doing with technology. And so typically we're really shooting for just something better than that image, something better than the baby chewing on an iPad. So my success bar is low, is another way of saying that. So anyway, about 4 years ago, we launched a project at University of Oklahoma called OU Create, which is a domain of one's own initiative. How many of y'all are already familiar with domain of one's own and what that is? Cool. So an explanation will be useful. So domain of one's own is a bit different than WordPress multi-site. You can use WordPress multi-site in it, but most people don't. What it is the brainchild of Gardner Campbell and Jim Groom, and several others at University of Mary Washington. And their idea was that what would happen if we gave every student, or perhaps every student and faculty member, or better yet, every student, faculty, and staff member, a domain of their own, a full web domain, a full LAMP stack where they could install whatever kind of apps they want, including WordPress, but also including Drupal and Omeka and straight HTML and Python apps and anything else that you can run in a LAMP stack. And so at OU, we've given every student, staff member, and faculty member 5 gigabytes of server space, a domain or a subdomain, depending on their preference as to whether or not they want to pay. The subdomain's free, full domain is to register. And support to be able to build as many websites as they want. Within 5 gigabytes, you can build 100 websites fairly easily if you aren't being extravagant with your images and all those kinds of things. So OU Create has been going for about 4 years. Each year, we tend to add about 1,000 new users. We're not provisioning these accounts when students come into the university. Rather, we're allowing them to sign up if they have need. So if they want to, or if a course is asking them to, that's typically when they sign up. Same thing with faculty. If they've got a project they want to promote, if they want a personal website, if they want to promote their latest book, if they want to build a course website, if they want to do some sort of course assignment, that's when they sign up for a domain or build on the domain that they've already signed up for. So each year we add about 1,000 users. Right now we're at 5,200 users, about 6,000 websites. And basically I manage that on a day-to-day basis by myself. I am the support team for that. For the last few years, or at least for several years, Keegan Longwheeler did a lot of our faculty development, and we split sort of student training. We'd go into classes and teach them how to use these things. But it's basically either one or both of us doing faculty development, student training, staff training, tickets, just everything else related to the sites, with the occasional help of our supervisor when we really needed it. And so it's a light support team. We've got to be pretty flexible. Also, what this means is that we don't have a lot of time for community building. We don't have the same type of WordPress infrastructure that goes throughout campus that maybe some of y'all do with either multi-sites or with institutional sites, where there's a bit more awareness of the thing as an entity. Our university, OU, uses CQ5, uses Adobe for its websites, its institutional websites. And so we also have to not step on their toes or use their branding for our OU Create stuff. So there's a bit of a conflict, and we can't rely on them for either support or branding or any of those kinds of things. And so it's an interesting challenge. The biggest challenge being, how do we build community? How do we build awareness of the tool? How do we build skills within the tool of WordPress or of domains more broadly? How do we build interest in it? How do we make people aware of it? And then rather than just giving them WordPress, how do we actually make it useful educationally? How do we help faculty understand what to do with it in the classroom? How do we help students understand what to do with it? So the original idea, the reason that we started it up was that we were thinking of it as a portfolio type site. The provost came to us and said, I want a portfolio thing. This was on the heels of Clemson rolling out their big portfolio project that was very successful. And he said, I want portfolios. What can we do? And so domain of one's own was just coming on at that point and had literally just been invented about a week before. And so we got excited about it and ended up implementing it. And so we started off with some sort of hesitating support, some support, but not full bore from the provost. And then we had to sort of win people over from there. And so we started building the community from day one. Part of what we did to build community, we rolled out the site and we seeded the ground. We had a soft rollout in the first year where we invited people to come build websites, come build their own domains. And so we invited those people who were already playing with the web and who had been asking for better web support to come build websites. And so we had about 1,000 users in the first year that we gave top-level domains to. So their own, mine is johnastewart.org. I was the, I think, 13th user in the service. I was a grad student at the time. Our provost was one of the first users, kyleharper.net, and has maintained his site until today. But there were about 1,000 of these domains that we sort of seeded across campus to try to build a community from the ground up. After that, we rolled it out so that it was more open. Anybody could sign up for a site. All a student or faculty or staff has to do is go to this site, click the Get Started button, and use the same logins that they use for every other service across campus, their email, their whatever else they do across campus, the LMS. And once they click get started, it either logs them in if they've already set up a site, or a domain rather, or it walks them through the domain process. You choose your subdomain name, so john.oucreate.com, something like that, or you register a top-level domain if you want to pay for it, and then you get a control panel where you can do whatever you want to from a control panel. Install WordPress with a one-click app, install Drupal, install Mecca, install whatever, upload HTML files, run Perl scripts, all of those kinds of things. So this is the handing over of the tool, right? We've installed it, we've told people about it, we've presented it to them. They can now go sort of drool on it without much guidance. But how do we build the guidance? And so that's where Keegan came in, and he developed faculty training programs that we rolled out about 6 months, well, probably quicker than that, but as quickly as possible to train our faculty on how to use the stuff. And then we started going into classrooms and actually talking to students on how to build websites. What does a portfolio site look like? What does a class blog look like? How do you build one and the other? How do you build multiple sites in subdirectories and subdomains? How do you do all these things? But we were giving people the skills, and we were trying to instill the pedagogical motivations behind them. But I think this is where most projects tend to sort of fall off, is you train people up, but then what's the follow-up? How do you know what they're actually doing with any of this stuff? And so we can send out questionnaires and get some general sense of, like, are you actually using your domain? Are you using the stuff that we're paying for? But we didn't really have any way of seeing what people were doing unless they were coming back to us, either for help or to follow up the next semester. A faculty member might come back in and say, that went okay last semester, let's change it, let's iterate it a bit. And then we'd see what they were doing, but we wouldn't see most of the projects that were going on. So about a year into the thing, we decided that we were going to hold the Creaties, which is nominally the point of my talk today. The Creaties were an award show to celebrate sort of the best work from the university. We called them the Creaties because we couldn't come up with a better name. It was supposed to be our version of the Webbies, was the idea, and Webbies was taken, which was also a terrible name, but probably better than Creaties. I don't know. Anyway, so we were trying to celebrate the creators from across campus. This is really a maker movement in the digital space. We think of WordPress and of domains as a maker activity. And so we're trying to celebrate people making in WordPress, in digital space. About 90% of our users are using WordPress, which is sort of why I keep focusing on it, and because we're at WordPress campus. The other 10% are scattered through Drupal, Mecca, straight HTML, and then just random weird stuff that's kind of interesting. So the first year, when we were setting up the celebration, we decided to host a luncheon, and we actually got our provost of the university, sort of the highest ranking member of the university, to come in and talk to the nominees for the award ceremony. And it was really, I liked it a lot because our provost, from his own direction, without any prompting from us, picked up on the language of educational technology. He was borrowing terms from Audrey Waters and from Jim Groom and from these other sort of leading lights in promoting web for students. And he was talking about reclaiming the web from corporate interests and remembering that it was originally built by academics and for academics. And he was talking about how we at OU can lead the way in reclaiming the web for us, for higher education. And so it was very exciting. He was lauding the students and the faculty in the room for their contributions to the knowledge community and to tearing down the walls of the university and opening us up to the rest of the world by using WordPress in our education. And it was really exciting to see that level of buy-in from the provost, from literally the person who we most need to impress on campus. So from there, we also needed to get more buy-in from faculty and students, right? So once we have administrative support, then we start looking for everybody else, right? So Ben Keppel was the award winner this year for Best Faculty Site. caprabaileyproject.oucreate.com was his project. So Ben was really interesting because he had been working on this article about It's a Wonderful Life, the movie, for a couple of years, and decided that instead of an article, it makes a better website. And so he developed that article into a very nice website that you can go look at, and then built it out, presented it, and someone nominated him for the award. He didn't know about it. And so he ends up winning this award for Best Faculty Website. And now he's using the award. He's using the award from us that we just made up 3 years ago to go apply for grants. And so he's saying this is an award-winning site. He's got the digital sticker that we give out, the little badge. He's got the certificate that we gave him and the physical award that we gave him. And he's able to take that to grant institutions and say, I want to raise money to take what I've built from a history perspective, this research, this website that I've done, I want to take it into a K-12 environment. And he's trying to take that project into local Norman, Oklahoma schools to talk about the importance of It's a Wonderful Life and the Great Depression for Oklahoma. Side of the Dust Bowl, that kind of thing. So we're getting buy-in from the faculty in that they take pride in winning the award, right? He sees this as a big accomplishment. And he's moved from being a user of Create into a stakeholder promoting Create, right? He's out there telling people about the award he's got. He's out there telling people about the project that he's very proud of, about the research that he's done, and the way that he's able to present it because we've provided him the infrastructure to publish, right? We've given him WordPress to be able to publish his research in a much easier way than going through the traditional article format. So with admin and faculty buying in, students are the other key stakeholder group, I think. I'm probably missing a few, but those seem like the 3 big groups to me. This student is the head of something called the Forum at OU. We have a OU, like most other schools, has a newspaper that's run by the students. The Forum is actually an alt magazine run by the students, but without any approval from the university. It's something they produce just totally on their own. And they're using our WordPress, our Create domains, to run their website, to run a really nice WordPress-based e-zine, whatever you want to call it. And they pull material from the students. They ask for student input, and then they publish these really nicely edited articles. They publish interviews. They put up video. They put up illustrations and graphics and all sorts of stuff. And so it's a multimodal e-magazine that is sort of enabled by us giving WordPress to the campus. Part of my interest in this project, in Create, came from my inability as a graduate student. I wanted to start up an online journal system. I wanted to use OJS to start up an online journal for graduate students. My PhD is in history of science. And so I wanted to start up a history of science graduate journal. And I couldn't do it. At the time, OU was only offering tilde-based HTML. You got 5 megabytes of space, and you got a little tilde extension for your name off of the main domain. And you could upload anything you wanted to, as long as it was less than 5 megabytes. Anything you wanted to that was written in straight HTML, no PHP systems. And so I tried for about 2 years to figure out, what to do to get around OU's web rules, and really couldn't. And so when Create started up, that was the first thing that I was building, was an OJS type system in Create. I later went on to build some digital humanities projects, and then I jumped ship from being a historian into working on this project. So now it's nice to see that students can just one-click install WordPress and start up their own journal, their own e-magazine that wins awards. They win awards from not just us, but from the state for best student publications. They win all sorts of awards. And so again, we're getting students to use the system, and then we're able to acknowledge them for what they've built. And then the forum, again, presents their awards from us on their website. It's cut off on this one, sorry. It's like down here at the bottom, right underneath their form. Anyway, here's the forum's website, one of the articles that came out relatively recently. So once we get buy-in from everybody, that was the first big objective for the Creaties as an idea. That was one of our big goals, was just to get buy-in from our various stakeholders. The next buy-in was in identifying talent. Sorry, here's, before I move on, I just wanted to note this one also. This is a course site that came out this year. This was the award for best course site. Zev Trachtenberg teaches philosophy. Particularly this one was an environmental ethics class. Zev's website's fine. He's built probably 10 websites in WordPress over the last few years. And so he's gotten decent at it. What's good about his site, the reason he won the award isn't his work, it's the students' work. So he's got about 20 graduate students who are writing on environmental ethics. Each one of them have their own WordPress site, all feeding back into Zev's site and all linked from it. Each one of their sites is brilliant graduate level research on environmental ethics. And so Zev's got 20 different great graduate students all publishing their work to their blogs. And so his stuff's fine, but what's interesting is the graduate work. And Zev would be happy with me saying that. So here's his class and their site. If you go to this link, ztclasses.com/phil3293, you can see that, again, his site's fine, but what's interesting is that sites. So, like I said, the next goal was identifying talent across campus. Zev is an example of talent. He's someone who's interested in web work and has been working with us a lot over the last few years. This is Sala Tabruzzi. He's a stats professor. And Sala, you can kind of tell here, and I'll flip to the next slide where you can see it a little bit better. A couple of years ago, Sala built this website, The Element of Statistics. And the first thing that you can see there is lecture presentations. So he put up all of his lectures, both the slides for them and then video capture, in the website, and just presented them openly for both his students and anybody else who wanted to come to the site. He still uses for cost, an expensive textbook, but he's basically supplemented the entire textbook with an open textbook that you would be able to follow a lot of statistics from just his WordPress site built in our domain space. And so we gave him an award for sort of best course website. He's tied in My Stats Lab. He's tied in examples and exams. He's got data sets on here. He's got worksheets in Excel on how to use Excel to do fairly advanced statistics. You can get a lot of sort of junior level statistics just from his website. So we gave him the award for best course website last year. And then he came back that summer and built a second course website for an entirely different course, again, in that open model. Again, sharing all of his work for his class, all of his research, all of the stuff he was presenting for his students, sharing it online. And so in giving him the award, we encouraged him to keep doing these things, right? We identified the talent of the professor to build good websites and encouraged him to keep on going. And his model seems to be that for most of his new courses that he's going to be teaching, he's going to keep throwing up these really useful resources for his students. So identifying talent applies to both faculty and to students. This is a website called Voices of Play. This is a faculty website for a book that came out about 6 months or a year ago. But the whole website was built by a student assistant who the faculty member hired to help her build the site. And so I was working with both the faculty member and the student on sort of conceptualizing the site, and they ended up winning the award for best sort of book type site that year. But afterwards, the student sort of kept working with me. And so what was interesting was that in that award and in this process of building the site, we were able to identify a student who was really talented. The student had come to OU without any real web development skills. She hadn't built websites before, but she came to OU, and in her freshman year, she took Journalism 101, Intro to Journalism, and she was asked to blog for the class. And so she got exposure to WordPress. Then as a sophomore, she was asked by the faculty member to build the site, and she did. She did a good job on it. And then I was able to refer her on to other faculty members who wanted similar projects around campus. I said, check out the site. If you like it, I'll give you the student's name and I'll put the two of you in touch. And she can do your web development for you. And so now we've identified through the Creaties and through working with them on these various projects, a pool of students who we can refer on to faculty members to do web development, to do WordPress sites for them. And this student is able to pay for a lot of her college by doing WordPress, by building WordPress sites for faculty members. And so I'm really excited about that level of building community, that level of identifying student talent, and that level of being able to promote those students, to help them develop a marketable skill, right? She's a journalism student, but if she goes on to have a career in web dev, I'll be really excited about that. And if she has a career in journalism, even better. But I like that, that we're able to help inculcate, help build those skills. Here's the new website that she built now that she's learned a little bit. This is for the second professor that I referred her on to. So this guy does 3D modeling of Monte Alban, this archaeological site. And she helped take all the 3D models and photographs that he was able to get with a drone and plug them into this website, which is really nicely laid out. I've tried to make sure that all the URLs are included in this, and I'll throw up the URL from my site that has all of this information at the end. So a couple of the goals then for Creaties, getting buy-in, identifying talent. The last one was promoting best practices. Yeah, time. So again, when we're doing these trainings, we can talk to students about, don't violate copyright law, and we can talk to students about accessibility and all of these kinds of things. But we're really giving about 5 or 10 minutes worth of training on accessibility and copyright and aesthetics of a website, design, advanced coding, plugins, all these kinds of things, right? There's never enough time to talk to students or faculty about best practices for web skills. So the Creaties provided an opportunity for us to reemphasize those things. In order to be nominated for a Creatie, all you have to do is have someone nominate you. But in order to actually win, your site has to be accessible. We don't give any awards to non-accessible sites. It has to comply with most of the functions of UDL. If it's such an outstanding site that it's not quite perfectly UDL compliant, maybe it can win. But generally, everything is well alt tagged, tabbable, well laid out. Fonts are good. The contrast, the colors are good. All those kinds of things. And so we can promote accessibility through the awards ceremony. Starting this year, we're going to start giving an award for the best promotion of accessibility with the website, an award specifically to acknowledge great accessibility and great UDL. Again, just to call out that that's something we value on campus. We want that to be something that students are doing. Another sort of best practice that we're highlighting is copyright. You can't win a Creatie if you're breaking the law, which seems like a good policy, I think. We really promote Creative Commons, and we'd really like if students are sourcing their images, their audio and video from Creative Commons licensed stuff. But as long as they're sourcing it from stuff that they at least have copyright to, that's great too. I'm fine with them taking their own images, all those kinds of things. But we're using this as a opportunity to teach people about Creative Commons, and especially to teach people about not breaking copyright. Multimodal composition. Nobody's won anything for just throwing up a doc file as a WordPress site. It's just not how you win an award. And so we can talk to students about links, about what is a hyperlink? How is the web built? What does a hyperlink even mean? We can talk to students about, again, sourcing images, sourcing audio, sourcing video, and about multimodal composition, making a really interesting website. What is the difference between writing a paper for an audience of one that gets filed away and marked up in red and you never see it again, and creating a really interesting online presence for yourself, a really interesting online document for your class. So multimodal composition is another one of our goals. There are lots of other goals. Does anybody think about what they would want to promote through this type of thing? I've used my 3, and my other ones are in my notes, and I'll have to dig them out. What could you use something like Creaties to promote across your campus? What are best practices for web development? I've got 3 more, but I don't really want to share them. Thoughts? Plain language. Writing in a journalistic style as opposed to an academic style. Most of the people I work with write in an academic style. Have to be beaten out of it. Other thoughts?
Testing whether they're optimized for social media or SEO.
Yeah, so social media and SEO optimization and sharing. We talk a little bit about Twitter sharing and about Instagram. We also talk about embedding Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the other stuff into your WordPress. And so, again, the domain of one's own community has a term called POSSE, publish once, share. Yeah, publish on your own, share elsewhere, publish once, share everywhere, however you want to interpret it. But the idea of social media and pushing out from your space, you control your space. All of our students, they own the content in their domains. All of our faculty own the content within their domains. Whenever they want to, they can delete anything from their domains. When they leave the university, they can leave it up and then figure out how to transition it so that they're paying for it and not us. Or I'll send them a zip file of all their stuff, and it's their stuff, and they can take it wherever they want to. If they want to go to Bluehost or whoever, take their WordPress wherever they want to go. I give them pretty explicit instructions on how to do it. And if they have any questions, they can email me back, and I'll explain it to them in the simplest terms I can possibly find. So anyway, they own their stuff. That's another aspect of this. I was thinking about just basic creativity. You don't win an award for having the theme 2017 still up. If you've got the cactus still on there, it's just not going to work for you. And then coding, we really like to see just interesting coding where you can modify your own CSS, insert some PHP, just mess with it. This is a great space to manage one's own and just WordPress in general. Maybe the big difference between our WordPress and WordPress multi-site is that we enjoy it when people break stuff. That's interesting for us. For you guys, for WordPress multi-site users, I'm sure that's terrible. But for us, it's just a learning experience. Sometimes terrible learning experience. Sometimes it means the site's lost. But
I think that's one of my favorite things about all of this in general is like it shifts the mindset to this is all a learning experience.
Yeah.
It makes that accessible because we're all in it together.
Yeah, and along those lines, along the lines of it's a learning experience. To quote Keegan, we have awards both for best site, best portfolio style site, best faculty type site, like a site, and then we also have awards for best posts. And so we try to award both the ephemeral, both the short-lived, really interesting little piece that's going to go away and disappear briefly, and also the long-lasting, something that's been maintained and built for 3-4 years as a student or as a faculty member. And we try to acknowledge both of those because they're both really interesting parts of the web. We're still playing with what it means to be ephemeral on the web. Do we want to archive all of this? Do we want to archive all of the Creaties stuff? Is an open question. Does anybody archive their WordPress multi-site, or have y'all thought about preservation of content?
Have you tried using the Internet Archive? Because they haven't
Yeah, it works.
you can get.
And it works well with individual like domains, but like lots of domains.
If you have access to their archive web crawler, you can plug in all the domains and they'll do it for you.
Yeah, it gets a little unhappy at 1,000 and 2,000 and 5,000, but it'll do it. We've also been using their tool, but to do it independently and work everything on our own, and then thinking about where to store those. Anyway, rambling a bit, but we've got about 15 minutes left for questions. Really, I'm looking for conversation. Oh, I did want to go. Sorry, one last thing before I turn over that. Logistics. So just in case you're pondering any of this, doing any of these Creaties type things, I wanted to go through a little bit of what it actually looks like to put them on. So the first year we did it as an award luncheon. And so we had our provost come and give a talk during the luncheon. We provided the lunch for all of the nominees. We invited all of the nominees to bring like a +1. And we had it in the student union in a really nice like banquet hall. We gave all of the nominees certificates to acknowledge that they were nominees and they'd done a great job. And then we had these really nice little wood plaques printed up for the winners from each of our categories. And we called people up to be sort of acknowledged as being winners. So it was a really nice luncheon, but students don't particularly like luncheons, is our experience. We enjoyed it, but students are, they're not used to luncheons. That's not the thing. They'd probably rather be outside. So the next year we switched it up a little bit. In the last 2 years, we've held it instead of this ballroom type setting, we've held it in the faculty lounge, which has a bar and has like finger foods. And so everybody sort of mingles around. It's more of a cocktail hour kind of event. We give out drink tickets to anybody who's over 21. And we encourage them to, again, bring a +1. There are no speeches, or there's a speech by me that lasts about 5 minutes and is about this level of awkwardness. And then we give out awards and we give out door prizes. This year we did 3D printing for our awards, which I really like as an idea, but batch 3D printing 48 awards tends to melt stuff, especially when you try to get creative with your awards. So we melted 3 sets of awards and then didn't have very many to give away. So we could only give them to the winners instead of all the nominees as I planned. So the lesson there is if you're going to 3D print stuff, 3D print it like 6 months in advance so that you're not rushing a batch print 3D thing. I'll pull up the image on that just so you can see why they melted. I really like this design. These are, I don't know, about 3.5, 4 inches tall. And they're interlocking and alternatively twisted pyramids. And so once you get about halfway up, they melt. Surprisingly, the bases melt too, even though they're not that complicated. I was surprised by that. Anyway, we got about a dozen out instead of the 50 that I wanted. So we did some 3D printing. We got some swag from our IT store, and we gave those away as door prizes. And then we also gave away 2 gift certificates, one to sort of the best student website and one to the best faculty website. Each of those certificates were for like $100. They would go to the IT store and just buy whatever they wanted, again, just to acknowledge their work. And that's the sort of carrot in all of this. It's mostly about recognition. I'm sure they like the $100, but they seem actually happier with the trophies than with the gift certificates. So, so that's the idea is get a room, get some food, preferably some drinks also, if you can manage that, if your campus allows. and then some form of token of acknowledgement. We've got stickers, and the stickers tend to go over well, but gift certificates and little objects tend to go well. And then we also bring over monitors. I think I've got an image for this. We bring over some Macs, and we load up all of the websites on them, and we also load up a screensaver that's just compiled of screenshots of all of the websites. And we encourage people to brag on themselves, or at least poke around at other people's sites, sort of chat about what they've done. And again, all of this, and the idea of if we get 50 people who are really excited about the web together in a room, maybe we can inculcate that community. We can introduce students and faculty, set up some of those work relationships that I mentioned. These are librarians that we got excited about everything. Librarians are easily excited. Word cloud from, this is just one of the sites. We've also got a word cloud from all of the sites. We did some really lightweight text analysis on all of the nominees just to see what they were talking about. It's nothing interesting. It's not uninteresting, it's just not super interesting. Anyway, enough rambling. Questions or thoughts? Yeah.
Does the university care about the quality and content of all these sites? Is there some kind of oversight? Like, I can't imagine my university saying that they would even want to.
Yeah, that's always the biggest pushback from.
Repeat the question for the last.
Sorry. So, does the university care about content quality, all of this stuff? How do you get the university to allow you to do such a thing? One, since we're using CQ5 and Adobe as our web content management system, Webcom, Web Communications for OU, has control of that stuff, and we're not allowed to touch any of it. So we can't imply that we're a departmental site. We can't build faculty profile sites for the departmental sites. We can't try to integrate with the system that's there. And they're the ones that are branded properly with the OU logos and the colors and all of those kinds of things. So we're not supposed to use OU logos and colors. So these are personal sites and course websites, but not sort of officially sanctioned sites. And so that's the legalese to get around some of that. That legalese doesn't actually get you very far. You still have to get another level of buy-in of acceptance or just initial, sort of saying, oh, okay. And that usually comes in the form of pilot projects. So Michigan State tried to pilot about 2 years ago that I think they were pretty happy with, but they started off with 40 websites. And so that was small enough that their webcom wasn't, breathing down their necks. And then they could show this is useful in these ways. And we're building this out in these ways. And it's not going to intrude on what webcom is doing. And so, again, we did sort of a similar thing, is that we had to get buy-in and support from webcom first, and then slowly build it out in a way that was not offensive to them. But yeah, that's the, in terms of stakeholders that you have to win over, I think they're usually one of the hardest.
Yeah, John, you mentioned whether it was in the first 6 months or year, you had 1,000 websites. It seems like a huge number to me right off the bat. Was that mostly faculty getting into having a web space for the first time, or were they transferring over WordPress.com sites? Where was that coming from? And how did you get so many so quickly?
Yeah, so Mo asked, how do we get 1,000 users in the first year? It makes a lot more sense now that we're getting 1,000 users per year in like our 4th year. In the first year, we reached out to people who were already doing a lot of web projects. And so people were aware that I wanted web space. I'd asked for it and bothered people for years at that point. A lot of our online teachers that are more active in this community were wanting web space. We're wanting, we're known to be seeking these things out. And so we were able to reach out to a couple hundred people that were just sort of known entities, and then invite them to invite their friends and like tell other people around campus. And so it was really sort of invitation, word of mouth, and then opening it up a little bit. So I think the first 300 or 400 users were specifically invited, and the next 300 or 400 users were sort of friends of friends. And towards the end of the year, I think we still had like 200 licenses left over. The other thing is that we were giving away top-level domain registrations in perpetuity, so those are still active 5 years later. And so there was some small, and that's $12 a year. It's not a huge deal per user, but it is enough of a motivation that if you've ever wanted your own domain space, now's a good time to do it. That kind of thing. So we no longer give those away now. Now we ask if you want a top-level domain, you have to pay for it. So that was a small period, but a lot of it was just we have a lot of people using the web. Some of them were bringing over HTML projects, so they already had, some faculty had, nice HTML setups, and we're just uploading those through FTP. We were able to show FTP, SSH, and WordPress type projects and appeal to not just WordPress users, but a broader group.
Have you noticed that students from perhaps more traditionally non-technical programs of study can now add to their portfolio this technical section, and how that has perhaps benefited them?
Yeah, so the question is sort of where do the students come from, and especially are those students here from non-technical backgrounds able to benefit from this? Yeah, our biggest two user groups, we have three really big user groups. One is the College of Journalism. One is what am I looking for? English Comp 101. And then one are Global Engagement Fellows. And so I'll tackle all three of those. None of those are traditionally tech things. You don't think of journalists as being particularly tech savvy usually. But journalists need to be writing for a public audience rather than audience of one, sort of by definition. And so the College of Journalism early on recognized that it's better to have your students blogging than writing papers that get turned into an advisor. And so they were an early adopter. Several of our students, Dana Branham comes to mind, is now a writer for the Dallas Morning News. She's had wonderful internships across the country, and she ran the OU WordPress site while she was at OU, and was hired right out of college for these fairly, nice level jobs in the journalism world. So they build really nice skills there, and we help them with even higher level skills, not just blogging, but sort of next level stuff. What was the second group? Global Engagement Fellows. We pay for, you can apply to be a part of this Global Engagement program where you get 2 paid study abroad trips during your time at OU. In exchange, one of the things you need to do is blog about your time abroad. So you bring your experiences back home. So all Global Engagement Fellows set up WordPress sites. Those are fed back into a hub for Global Engagement Fellows. And these are students from mostly the humanities who then learn to do sort of multimodal photographic documentation of their travels, write about their travels, share their experiences, that kind of thing. Third group, English Comp 101, are doing multimodal composition now instead of more traditional composition. Not in all of their classes, but in several of them. They've shifted over to a fully multimodal course design. And so they're learning about how to write in these ways. So again, traditional humanities, but done in a tech way, building those skills at the freshman level. Yeah.
So it was born, this project was born out of the provost's desire to have a portfolio mechanism available for students. So is it being used as that now, or is it more of a sort of web space for people?
So the question is, initially this idea came out of the provost's desire for a portfolio system. Is it actually being used that way? Both. So we're really surprised in some of the ways that we used it. I mentioned Salit Brizzi earlier, who had that element of statistics, basically textbook. We hadn't anticipated the level of use for open educational resources that this is now a system for. It's really a strong infrastructure, and we work a lot with OER. It's a strong infrastructure for digital humanities, which I anticipated, but maybe others didn't, just because that was my background. But faculty, or students rather, in some of the colleges are continuing to use it as a portfolio system, sort of as originally implied and desired. Journalism is the main one because they've integrated it into their pedagogy from freshman level through senior level. So Journalism 101, first comm class that you take, you start into domain of your own, and you register a site, you start using it, you start blogging. Sophomore year, there are projects. Junior year, there are projects. Senior year, there are projects. And they promote a portfolio as you're going out and applying, especially if you are applying for print media and other, sort of worlds where that would make sense. Architecture uses it as a portfolio. We're working with College of Arts and Sciences to think about it more broadly as a portfolio system. Engineering, not so much, but that's predictable. Was there a question over here or just a stretch? Yeah.
You talk about sites feeding back into each other. Do you use a specific tool or technique to?
Right now, we mostly, so the question was sites feeding into each other. Linking, we teach a lot about linking just because that's like an underappreciated aspect of the web. Like, it's amazing how little people understand hyperlinking after 50 or 60 years of that being in existence. But more importantly, feed WordPress is one of the big ones we use. So RSS feeds are automatically generated by pretty much all WordPress sites. And so feed WordPress can take those RSS feeds, channel them into the blog feed of a hub. And so we've got a lot of classes where they'll feed in 20 or 40 or 100 student blogs into the central hub. And then when you click on a blog post, it pushes you back out to that student's original contribution. And then by default, those are set up so that if a student deletes their blog post, it's deleted off the central hub as well. And so students retain control of their intellectual property, for lack of a better word, after they've submitted the assignment. So that's the main way that we see links. The Global Engagement Fellows maintain a network that's really nice. The forum maintains a network that's really nice. There are lots of little emergent networks all across campus. The Digital Humanities Group has several different networks that tie together faculty, staff, and students between websites and projects and the different facets that they put forth. The new thing that we're attempting is APIs. Instead of RSS feeds, we're working more off the API of the current version of WordPress. And what can you do with API calls that's interesting? And so maybe you're not RSSing everything. Maybe you can be a little more selective. You can do some processing on what you're displaying, more creative displays, those kinds of things.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.